Like she said, I'm Trevor Hassler. I'm the INDOT Project Engineer, the State Highway Engineer for the US 40 job out here. It's an honor to be invited back. This will be the third time we were here. We were here in fall of 14 and summer of last year. And I promised everybody then that we would actually show some serious progress, and hopefully you agree we did. So, everybody knows, you've seen it in the papers a million times and seen it firsthand out here, what we're doing. Full rebuild down to the dirt, with new drainage, curbs, walks, full rebuild front of the building to front of the building. I'm from Clay County. I grew up here and went to Northview and live here now. I see some familiar faces, and anyways, I have a big stake in the progress and the success of the project and having a long lasting road, so I think last year things really came together towards the end. We got a lot done at the end. We had 8 crews out here at one time on, for a long stretch. People seem pretty happy for the most part. Get a few complaints, but we have much more positive feedback so far this winter. We do have some corrections down at the west end. People ask me from time to time, are you completely done down there? And the answer is no. We got a couple inlets that aren't getting good drainage to them and stuff, but I always point out to people, if you split it at 59, you basically got 2-mile-long, $10 million highway jobs, so it wouldn't be unexpected to have a deficiency list or punch list for a job of that size. So just because we've come on the other side of 59 now doesn't mean we don't have some things we're aware of, but that's to be expected. But then I've had a lot of questions about some various things out here. A lot of what we do is tied to the ADA requirements and restrictions, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and of course INDOT wants to do everything we can to support that and to provide for good access. It's there's a lot of things out here that's very rigid on the percents and rigid on the slopes and the regulations. So sometimes you run into issues where you think, well, why did they do that? Or that's not how I do it at my house, per se. But that's why you see some of the things we got out here. Like, for instance, down there at Sherman Street, Sampson and Delilah's hair salon down there, everybody asks me all the time, why is there a sidewalk parallel and steps right there? Well, that's because, we did that to meet the ADA requirements. So it's the same with the 2-foot brick sidewalk there through downtown. There's a few spots that's steeper than would be ideal, but that's just to make all the slopes work out and not have to add steps at buildings that didn't have steps to begin with. Obviously the stuff was all built in the 1890s and early 1900s. It's kind of like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole sometimes on this stuff. So anyways, that's just some stuff that people ask me about now and then. Anyways, a lot of our funding is federal highway. This is a U.S. highway. We have 80-20 funding and 90-10 funding on various INDOT jobs. So we work real closely with them, with the federal highway on the guidelines. And that's kind of the explanation for some of the unique things you might have noticed that you think, well, why Trevor and those guys do that way, So, anyways, I want to focus on the positive. I think everybody agrees we got a lot better drainage. We had the Jackson Street. The city tied on a 30-inch line to Jackson Street, and they were able to tie onto our new main line and get some good drainage on Jackson Street. The Chicago block down there just was always flooded, so that's been kind of taken care of. We had the 59 intersection, of course, is infamous, so right now, we're solving that. We have some water that's backing up at the northwest corner, and I've had some questions about that. But that issue there is we've not put our last inch and a half of surface on yet there. That was because basically if we paved that all the way up to the top of the inlets last year, we've got so many, we're going to have to switch traffic patterns so many times for the east end. We'd have paved that, painted it, ground it, painted it, ground it. It's just been awful, you know. So we've got some temporary cord holes basically in those inlets down there right now. So it doesn't always keep up, but that's an explanation of why. If you ever see water backing up down there, that's what's going on. We'll get in there and get the final surface on this year. That 59, the whole intersection down there, was kind of built like a patchwork quilt to try to keep 40 and 59 open. I mean, you all saw that last year. You know, you built one corner at a time, then came back through and built the main line, one lane, built the main line, the other lane. So it's kind of a patchwork quilt, but we'll get in there, get it milled down, looking nice, and get the surface on, and it'll be a real good quality product at the end. We're going to officially start on Friday, April 1st. April 1st is the traditional state highway start date. Of course, we try to avoid lane closures through the winter and getting out there and tearing something up, and then, you know, tear it up the first week of January when the weather's nice and sit there for a month and a half and waiting. So anyways, April 1st is our normal date for lane closures. There's been some work out here, if you notice, in the winter. There's been guys out finishing out inlet structures and manholes and just doing some final, putting the finishing touches on some things. There's some water work going on down at the east end right now, shutting down a water main that was just something that we didn't get to last year. But anyways, so the actual start date for this project officially this year is April 1st. We are officially scheduled to take until November 1st for all lanes to be open, and it'd be the end of November for other miscellaneous items. And we, you know, of course, you know, if there are fair delays, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we run into out here, but anyways, the official completion date's November 15th. The ICD, intermediate completion date for getting all the lanes open, is November 1st. And, you know, there's liquidated damages if the contractor doesn't meet that. So, you know, Grade X is on the same schedule we are. You know, they want to have fun. They're financially, you know, invested to get it done, you know. So, but they're currently scheduled to hit it really hard. They're scheduling 3 pipe crews. Actually, we kind of are in a good position to get a lot of work done quick because you got the far east end down by Walmart, which is almost like its own little job down there, and that gets all new sanitary and storm drainage lines down there. So they'll have 1 crew working down there. In the meantime, they're going to have 2 pipe crews working down here. Basically, everything to the west of Vandalia Street flows back to the 340 through the pipe we put in so far. And then you probably remember in 2013, they did an off-site, 12 and 13, I think, they did an off-site storm retention pond that takes off to the south by East Side Elementary. And everything here down east of Vandalia goes to that. So we'll have a crew working that route. We'll have a crew at 59 going east, and then we'll have the far east end, we'll have a crew. And then subcontractors coming in. So you're going to see a lot of work coming pretty quick. The traffic pattern setup will be the same as last year. All the north side is going to be built first and then switch to the south side closure. Alabama is going to be the open street, just like Depot was last year. And Vandalia is the alternate. Alabama is allowed to be closed 7 days total. So then Vandalia will be the north alternate street. Murphy Avenue down there where all the concrete pavement is, that was all done about 15 years ago or so. That's a paving exception. So there's a big, 1,000-foot gap there in the middle. The only thing happening there is sidewalks and a few miscellaneous things, but Murphy Avenue will always be open, and there's not going to be much work going on there. There will be material and equipment staged down throughout there, though. But anyway, Murphy Avenue won't be touched, or restricted, I should say. Sycamore Street to the north will be open for the most part too, because that's the ambulance entrance for the hospital. We've been coordinating with the hospital. Coley Mendenhall, the superintendent from Great X, he's been talking with them, and we're going to always have both the entrances to the hospital open if we can. There will be a few days here and there where obviously you're working right in front of one or the other, but for the most part, 95% of the time I'm expecting Sycamore North to be another street that's open. We're looking at around July the 25th for switching north side to south side. So I'll give you a rough idea. Everything's right now to say it's going to happen on July 25th. That's a pretty rough estimate, but give or take a couple weeks. Hopefully give earlier. But the barrier wall ends at Vandalia Street. We've all gotten used to having the barrier wall separating the town down the middle. That actually goes through just to Vandalia Street. Beyond that, there's just so many houses and businesses that really don't have any side street or rear access or anything. They've just got 40. So starting at Vandalia, access to houses and businesses with no side street or other access will have temporary stone drives, and it'll all be barrels from then on. I was going to say too, actually mainline footage-wise, we got more work to do this year than we've done in 14 and 15 combined. Of course, 14 and 15 being planned to have been one year. We're all aware of that. But anyways, this year is going to be a big year. We got more footage left for this year than we had the last 2 years. But I think we can get it. The pipe is getting smaller as we go. We started out on the far west end. We were putting in the monster 66-inch pipe, and huge manholes. It took the biggest excavators available to even lift the manholes. We're getting down now where we're getting into, there's a little bit more big pipe left, but we're getting into like 30-inch pipe, 24-inch pipe. I mean, you can imagine trying to put in a 66-inch diameter pipe versus a 24, it's just going to fly comparatively. And the trench is going to be a lot narrower. The manholes are smaller, so work will go a lot faster. Also, it's shallower. I don't know, you probably all noticed last year, like Meridian Street, and just right downtown by Franklin, it got real deep. It was like 20 plus foot deep there for a short stretch. So, all of a sudden you're 20 foot deep in the middle of the historic downtown, putting in that huge pipe. That really goes slow. This will move down the road pretty quick. It's a more open area, not so many businesses right on the street. So that's good. And it's a lot flatter area too, so a lot of the ADA concerns we had with like Levitt Street and all those down the far west end where the street takes off, shooting up a hill, we don't have to deal with that, so we'll be in better shape. Of course, we're always concerned about the unknowns, the environmental things we run into. We found several buried storage, like heating tanks last year, and that's always a fun one. Everything's going great, and all of a sudden, here's a 1930 heating oil tank, and everything screeches to a halt for a couple days. But our environmental folks in Indy, the INDOT environmental folks, were real helpful last year, and we're able to keep everything moving. You run into pipe elevation conflicts. We got, the city guys are great, dealing with the water department and the sewer department. But, you deal with these old, 24-inch clay pipes that were put in the early 1900s, or even the 1950s, Well, the designers might have it all planned out perfect on paper, but we get there and they hit each other square on. You can't make water flow uphill, so you're at a standstill again for a couple of days, but we'll get it. I think it should. I'm pretty confident we'll hopefully have good luck. We ran into some bad luck so far, but I think things will do good. So the limestone curve. I was going to make a couple notes on some interesting things that you might see this year or that have happened. Of course, we've all seen the brick. The bricks exposed when they first come in and mill off the asphalt. It'll be the same way this year. It's like if they do a good enough job milling and just getting asphalt off, it's like walking down the brick street back in the day. It's really neat. You know, we saw the railroad tracks last year. The limestone curb we put in, that was a unique situation. We had some questions and stuff on it. It's not something INDOT really does. I mean, who puts in limestone curb, you know? It's just a unique thing. I was looking, we had some questions and stuff. I was just kind of curious. I was looking back on the internet trying to find like standards for putting in limestone curb, and I ended up, the best thing I could find was a 1905 City of Cincinnati guide on installing limestone curb, you know? So it's kind of a unique situation, but something our community has that nobody else really does, you know. So, anyways, getting back to some other interesting things. I was going to note Vandalia Street gets rebuilt 300 feet to the south and 200 feet to the north. You probably noticed when you go through there before, Vandalia doesn't really line up square with each other, you know. So on this job, we're shifting the south side of Vandalia over to the east, and it'll make a nice square intersection there. The sidewalk's going to be continuous now on the north side all the way out to Casey's on the east end. It used to stop there all around Murphy Avenue, and there was sidewalk on the south side, but Brian Wyndham and I have talked about this a couple times. It does continue on all the way to Casey's, so I think we're all happy about that. And it, even through Walmart area there and stuff. The limestone curb and the red brick walk, that ended at State Road 59. That was Depot Street 59 was the state designated historic section. So anyways, that was a special thing through that stretch. So we're out of that now. We'll be back to normal concrete curb and 2-foot grass strip between the curb and the sidewalk. But the black powder-coated signal poles, they continue on to Alabama Street. So Lambert and Alabama will actually get the nice powder-coated poles. I think everybody was pretty happy with those. People ask me a lot about the lighting and where it's going to stop at. It goes to Harrison Street, which is basically on the east side of the courthouse. So that's some people ask me about. Anyways, I hope all the businesses do fine this year. I know it's a bad deal for everybody to a certain extent. This year, most of the way never had on-street parking, whereas last year everything was on-street parking. So I'm hoping, you know, you got the Mario Brothers stretch down through there and all that. You know, I know it's going to affect some people, but in general, you know, 90% of this wasn't on-street parking. So I'm hoping with the temporary drives and barrels, we'll be in better shape. Feel free to get a hold of myself or Coley Mendenhall with Great X. He's their on-site superintendent. Most people on the west, from the west end, probably already know him. He's always out visiting and talking to everybody. But anyways, he's the superintendent. You can talk to the INDOT inspectors or the Great X field employees, and they can get in touch with us or give us a message, and we'll get back in touch with you. You can call Debbie. Did you have cards with you? Okay, so Debbie's got cards we can distribute out, and if you have any concerns, you can get a hold of the district, and they can get a message back to me. And well, you can stop by the field office, which is at 126 North Franklin Street. It's a block north of 40 on Meridian. There. Thank you, Debbie. Yeah, no. Anyways, get a hold of the INDOT inspectors, the Great X field employees. You see me out there. You see Coley with Great X is going through and introducing himself to everybody down through the east end. And if you're on the west end, you know him already. He's out talking to everybody all the time. So, you know, if you have any problems or concerns, questions, get a hold of us. And that's pretty much it. Did anybody have any questions as far as how it's going to impact? Yeah, go ahead.
Something I noticed when you were working on the west side, there may be really good reasons for this to happen, but when the concrete barrier is continuous, What I'm seeing is people walking across and jumping it and going through. I mean,
Yeah.
teenagers, young adults. I know that there's a lot of walking traffic on this side, and I didn't know if there was any wisdom in occasionally having a barrel versus something so they don't jump over. I'm
Yeah.
scared to death somebody's going to trip.
We talked about that from day one. That was the very first meeting we had at the city council. That was a big concern. That's just kind of the cards I was dealt. I mean, that's just how the project was designed to be built. Really, I don't have a particularly better answer for you than that.
I just know if a break in the barrier, block by block, was a possibility, or whether that's not allowed through whatever the federal guidelines are.
What happens is if you let them through, then they're walking through the construction job. Basically, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
It's an unfortunate
situation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we prefer for them to go to the open street. This year will be a little better. Last year was bad. I admit, yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, this year the barrier wall doesn't start until past Bedwell Tire and Warren Tire, okay? And then it just goes to Vandalia. You got Alabama there in the middle. So you've got a comparatively much shorter stretch of barrier wall. So you're going to have a few blocks in there. So I think this year it may not be quite as big of a problem, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll try to work with I've got kids walking to and from the Y, and I'm worried about the crossover at Hardee's. So we'll just try to make sure we work with the folks here.
Well, yeah, like I said, the barrier wall doesn't start till down by the tire, past the tire shops to the
I'm
east.
talking about right here by Hardee's and Terre Haute Savings Bank.
Yeah, what I was wondering though is if they could just go a little bit farther to the west. I mean, they could almost just go right around it right there, you know what I'm saying? It'd be a half block out of the way. But
that's completely logical. I agree with you. It's not the ideal situation by any means. So, anybody else have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm not sure if this might be for you. It's the timing on the lights. I am downtown every single day, and the timing is
on the west end.
Oh my
gosh. Yeah. They're going to be radio controlled. It's like the latest, greatest radio controlled setup, but they're not radio controlled right now. Okay. So.
Any other questions for Trevor, INDOT? Anything we could?
You can, if you have any individual questions about your property or whatever, just get with me afterwards, and I can either answer it or jot it down and get a hold of you tomorrow. So.
Well, thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you.
On behalf of the city, the mayor has a special thank you he's going to share for us.
Thanks, Mark. I was sharing a little bit with Mark here earlier that I think a lot of people need to know, first of all, how fortunate we are to receive this project. You know, it's in excess of $20 million, and for our city to be the recipient of that, it's tremendous. And they're doing a great job, and it's a tough project. You know, they're working in a very confined space. So just the logistics of it, if you really watch what's going on, is amazing. But this thing's been in the works for 20 years. And what I wanted to share with you a little bit about this project's been off and on the board all this time with the state. And there's a gentleman here with us this evening that I really believe if it wasn't for him, we would never have this here. And that's Mr. Alan Plunkett here. And I want to really thank him because he stayed with this thing with his perseverance. Honestly, is the reason that we've got this project here. And I think people need to know that, Alan. That,
thank you, Mayor.
Well, he never gave up on us. And, you know, that wouldn't be the case in a lot of cases. So we really want to appreciate him as
thank you.
On really making this happen here. So we do appreciate it, Alan.
Thank you, Mayor.